back to Check Out the Stat by your girl Treasure Wilson, aka Stat Baby. Today we talking WNBA takeaways, a new WNBA brunch concept, and who won Best Album of All Time according to Apple Music. But first, I've got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. With Underdog, you can earn money by making picks on your favorite players. You can try the app in California, Texas, and New York, and the list goes on. If you want to play along, go download Underdog Fantasy, use code STAT. They'll match your first deposit up to $100, and you'll get a special pick. So first, let's do our Underdog Fantasy picks of the day. So tonight, the Mavs will play the Timberwolves. You know, this is an exciting series, but the Mavs coming off strong, so we got to see what the Timberwolves are going to do. Underdog Fantasy has Luka at 28.5 points. Last game, they played exceptionally well. Luka had 33 points. Do I think he's going to get 29 points this game? I'm actually going to go higher. I think that all the trash talking coming from the Timberwolves got the Mavs heated up, and I could see Luka getting 29. Underdog has Kyrie at 8 rebounds and assists combined. So the last game, he had 9 rebounds and assists combined. And honestly, I feel like for Kyrie, that's a cakewalk. So I'm going to go higher for this one as well for Kyrie. And lastly, Ant-Man, Underdog has him at 27.5 points. So in a post-game interview, when talking about the Timberwolves' loss, Ant-Man said, "Came out flat today. I was exhausted." We do not have time for you to be exhausted. Game 2, I'm going to need you to bring the energy. I'm going to need you to have better spirits. You told Charles Barkley, bring your ass. I'm going to need you to bring your ass to the court. So we're trying to see you get active. So 27.5 points. I don't know, y'all. I think it's going to be another player, maybe like a Cat or Rudy Gobert. So I'm actually going to go lower. I would hope he would have that much, but 19 points after the last game doesn't give me that much confidence. So we will see how he performs in game 2. But make sure you guys download the Underdog Fantasy app and you can make your picks as well. So my Superwoman of the Week today is going to segue into my second segment. So I'm going to keep it a little short and sweet. But today's Superwoman of the Week is going to be Angel Reese. Obviously, she has transitioned pretty well into the WNBA, but I want to talk about a different aspect of her game. So she's now the newest owner of the USL Super League, which is DC's Power Football Club. That is a women's soccer team based in DC, and they are set to play this summer. I think that is an amazing investment. We all know that Shaq is one of her mentors. I don't know if he helped her, make this decision, but being an owner of anything, especially this young in your life, is one of the best decisions you can make. If we talk about making generational wealth, this is exactly what she needed to do. So shout out to her being a good role model and showing people that, look, it's more than basketball. I can make investments into other companies. And she's helping women's sports. It's a women's soccer team. So shout out to her for doing that. I think that's super, super dope. But that's going to segue into our WNBA takeaways of the week. So now that summer is basically here, the regular season for WNBA is in full swing. So I'm going to call this the big news in the W. And let's talk about the things that have happened this week. So the undefeated New York Liberty lose to the Chicago Sky 90-81. This brings them their first loss. Now their record is 4-1. Angel Reese was on fire this game. She had 13 points, 9 rebounds. 9 rebounds as a rookie to me is insane. So shout out to her. And 1 assist. She even had a steal from Breanna Stewart. They were shaking up the court. She officially became the 3rd player in WNBA history to grab at least 15 offensive rebounds in their first 3 games. She's joining Natalie Williams and Yolanda Griffith. So the thing about the game, right? It wasn't starting off slow. The game was tied late in the 3rd quarter. Then the Sky started gaining a lot of momentum towards the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th. Money Mabry scored 21 points. Shout out to her. If you look at her gameplay, she was throwing up shots like it was cake. She had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, which helped the team immensely. And obviously, she helped them offensively a lot. And in 4th quarter, it was just back to back to back. And everyone on the team as a whole had solid numbers. Not everybody, but a good core of them scored in the double digits. But on the other end, for the Liberty, only 3 players scored in the double digits, which was Ionescu, Breanna Stewart, and Courtney Vandersloot. which is expected when we see Ionescu and Breanna Stewart because they're amazing players. But that's still not enough for the team to win, which is why they had their first loss. I'm just going to say the non-starters are definitely going to have to step it up because that's exactly what the Sky did. They had more of a balanced team with players who were able to put up more shots, which is what the Liberty is going to have to do. Shouldn't be a hard adjustment for them. They are, a title contender. They're good at what they do. But the rookies are bringing the heat. Everybody's tired of being talked smack to. And the Sky is obviously a good team as well. So we will see what happens for them next game. The next news of the week, the Washington Mystics are selling brunch and basketball tickets to their upcoming games. I think that this is one of the best additions. I already enjoy going to basketball games, NBA games, and now WNBA games as well. To add a brunch aspect to it is one of the dopest ideas I've heard of, especially in DC, Chocolate City. So they're finna have bottomless mimosas. You can sit in the 100 level seats and drink up your mimosas while you're watching the game. And that's not it. They finna have chicken and waffles, fruit, pastries, coffee, a whole bunch of snacks that people can eat. And it's only gonna be for $105. I don't know about y'all. I was already sold on going to a WNBA game in general. But if you weren't sold, bottomless mimosas, chicken and waffles, food, 100 level seats, $105, to me, that's a date night. So if y'all were trying to think of a fun idea, a new concept to try out, I would definitely go to brunch and basketball. Now, the next thing that happened this week, the WNBA franchise will be expanding to Toronto. This is going to be the WNBA's first international franchise. We've seen how quick the league is growing in a short period of time. But what's interesting to me is that there was a voting that had to be done for this to be accepted. So the WNBA Board of Governors, the vote was 13-0, so nobody voted against it. But the NBA Board of Governors had a vote of 29-1. And let me let y'all guess what team voted against the WNBA expanding to Toronto. The New York Knicks. I don't know what their reasoning was behind it. They just said they're suing the Raptors in case of over alleged theft of proprietary information. I don't know what the Knicks got going on. I understand that you're mad at the Raptors, but it's like, dang, we're trying to expand the league. But the Knicks decided to take it into their own hands and vote no and be the only voted no. So I don't know what they got against it. But when it does happen, I better see some Knicks players at those games because then it's going to look like y'all not supporting them. Next thing is the Aces. They sold out of 15 of the 20 home games for the 2024 season. Again, this is showing the Caitlin Clark effect. For having 15 sold out games for the Aces is insane. WNBA, we already knew was on the rise, but now that we're seeing it translate to in person and people actually spending their money and dollars on tickets and filling out the seats in the game is super dope, and they deserve all of that. And their season opener had 10,419 tickets sold and people in attendance. That's insane. It's only going to get crazier from them because the season's just starting to heat up. So I know there's going to be even more people waiting for a ticket. And those ticket prices are finna be expensive. So if you didn't get you a ticket, make sure you go get you one now because there's only 5 games left that aren't sold out. And then the last thing that I want to discuss really is all the discussion around Caitlin Clark and basically pinpointing saying that players are being ungrateful and that there is this Caitlin Clark hate. So there's right now is a strong narrative that people aren't grateful for what Caitlin Clark has done for the league. I'm here to say that, I think that she has done a phenomenal job adding an addition to the league. Obviously, there's a lot more views, there's a lot more clicks, there's a lot more money being invested because of her. Now, Charles Barkley spoke on it. LeBron James spoke on it, basically saying he has been in that position before, so he's going to make sure that he roots for her. But on the other end, we've heard a lot of what the men have had to say, but a lot of, previous, WNBA players, analysts have spoke out in against, not against what Charles Barkley and LeBron James said, but basically saying that they do have support for Caitlin Clark. So Chene, she's an analyst. She said, Charles and inside the NBA team are the GOATs of the industry, so respectfully, I'll offer my perspective with love. Every WNBA player I know supports this rookie class and are grateful for the spotlight and money that Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and co. are bringing to the W. And then Elle Duncan, she's also an analyst and reporter. She spoke up about it, and she said that this rhetoric that all these girls are hating on her and need to be thankful isn't true. I'm actually going to go ahead and roll that clip.
This is only women that get this. I'm tired of it. Like, here's my thing, you guys. What else? Who are these girls? Who are these girls that are hating on Caitlin Clark? Are you just combing through Twitter? What else are these women supposed to do? Fawn over her? Fangirl over her? Bend the fucking knee? Kiss the ring? Like, what do you want from them? We cannot, every time the girl plays a game, she got 40 games, guys. She got 35 more games. We are not every single game gonna revisit and retread this same tired ass rhetoric that all these girls are hating on her, and they need to be thankful. They have been. Sure. They've said it. Time and time and time again. You want the girl every single time she walks out onto the court? What are we supposed to do? You want them all to give Caitlin their firstborn? Like, what are you looking for? It is embarrassing, because if this was the men and you just watched a bunch of other dudes fawn over someone all the time, you'd call them weak. That would be a soft move. Where's your competition? Where's the animus that used to be in the NBA when they really hated each other? Now they're all friends. It's so boring. We hate it. With women, you want them to do what?
Okay, so there's a lot of mixed reviews on what Elle had to say. Some people say that Elle sounds haterish because they feel like, you know, when Angel Reese had backlash and stuff, people weren't saying stuff about that. But when people say it about Caitlin Clark, now it's a big deal. Then there's the other half who are saying, yes, I haven't seen women hating on Caitlin Clark. There's actually an immense amount of support. I'm not going to be biased and say that I don't see anything, because, you know, as soon as she made it to this next level, it was kind of like people were like, oh, I told you so. Like, Caitlin Clark wasn't going to be. That is not true. I still think that she's playing phenomenal as a rookie, and she's going to go up from here. Let's not be blind. Caitlin Clark is one of the main reasons a lot of people have transitioned on to the WNBA. But it's not just her. I'm going to say Angel Reese has had a strong impact on that as well. When she started off with the ring and that clip went viral, people started calling her classless. That became a whole bunch of debate from there. And I think that it trickled down to the next season, which is where we're seeing it at this main stage, especially since they both decided to declare for the WNBA draft. But the players and the people who are already supporting the WNBA, they are going to, you know, continue their performance as follows. Like, yes, Caitlin Clark is this big addition, but to them, you know, they're not new to this. They're true to this. So they're going to, you know, continue to play as follows. And I understand the impact and wanting to be people to be grateful, but that's kind of back to Elle Duncan's point. She's saying people aren't going to drop down and, like, you know, start like having people do this for Caitlin Clark or drop down to their knees, which I get that too. But I think it's also important for players to kind of recognize that. I don't feel like we are seeing as much players say, like, you know, like, Caitlin Clark, we appreciate you. And it's like, I'm not also expecting players to do that either, because, again, like I said, they've been in the league. They're not going to just drop down to a rookie. But I think, you know, along the lines, especially when competition is over, right now, the season is hot. Nobody's being friendly. They're not up here shaking hands with everybody, maybe after the game, but they're competitive. So they're not going to do all that right now. When the season is over, I'm sure you guys will see all of them hanging out and being kumbaya and it all being happy. But right now, it's competition season. Caitlin Clark is the person that people keep kind of putting the light on. So when that camera's on them and they're playing against her, they're finna go crazy. And they were already going crazy. Y'all are just now seeing it on a different platform, on a different stage, now that you guys are tuned in to that girl as well. But all in all, right, the WNBA is becoming bigger and stronger than ever. And it's not going to be easy for the rookies to play. These girls have, like I said, been playing for a while. Super big, super tall. Wasn't going to be an easy task for anybody. But as far as Caitlin Clark specifically, I hope that she continues to take care of herself. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on her, but at the end of the day, I think we are all rooting for her because she has changed the game in ways that we have not seen it happen in recent years. Obviously, we still have our GOATs who made their lane, but Caitlin Clark is that new generation wave, that new hotness. So there's going to be haters. That's with everything. And when anybody starts something new in a new position, but shout out to her for staying strong, trying her best. But at the end of the day, the Fever going to have to bring that record up because they have not won any games. And that's not what people want to see from a girl who was really up here, especially on the collegiate level. So we will see what happens. But with that being said, we're going to go to break. And when we return, we will discuss the Apple Music album rankings. Don't go anywhere.
about's toxic. 4 years and counting. Got you feeling like an option. Maybe I'm my own problem, babe. She tired of hearing I don't know. What's stubborn in me won't fall. Dealing with this thing called trust. But she really thinking about it. Wanna be free. Why am I here? This woman wanna be free. Hell, I don't wanna see her walk away. I wish somebody told me the rules. Disagreements let her win, and it's cool. Even when I'm right, this ain't about you.
Welcome back. Now we're going to get into Ain't No Way, where we talk about the crazy things that have happened this week. Ain't No Way, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is the best album of all time, according to Apple Music. So earlier this week, Apple Music released its best albums ever ranked, with Lauryn Hill taking the number one spot. As we know, this is her only solo studio album, which was released in 1998. It's classified as neo-soul, R&B with hip-hop, soul, and reggae. So when I heard this, right, there was a lot of debate on the internet because people were like, there's no way. And honestly, if you told me to choose 100 albums and put them in order, I would have a lot of trouble, making this list. When I was doing more research on this topic, I was seeing that they had people for different generations and age groups basically ranking their best albums. And then that came down to the conclusion with Lauryn Hill being number one. I definitely had to go through and re-listen to the album song by song again, because I was like, is this what I would consider the representation of one of the best albums ever? And that's really hard to tell. Obviously, this is a phenomenal album. Lauryn Hill has only that one album, and she can still make a lot of profit off of it. She can tour off of it. It's very timeless. People are listening to it from all generations, and still to this day, all those songs are being bumped. Obviously, the first song is Lost One. She comes in hot, showing her rapping abilities. And she got X Factor, which is still a classic to this day. Completely changes the tone. And you got To Zion, which is storytelling. Like, the whole album is telling a story. It's lyrical. She's having little bops of different vibes in there. She's showing her versatility. Doo-wop, I don't even got to say more about that. That song's been a bop and forever will be a bop. They got Superstar, Final Hour. Obviously, there's a lot of great hits on that album. And it's something that everybody from any background can groove to. But I do not think The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is better than Michael Jackson's Thriller. At the end of the day, we are talking about Michael Jackson. He is one of the best artists ever. I'm not going to say one of the. I personally believe that Michael Jackson is the best artist ever to walk this earth. Okay? Michael Jackson Thriller was estimated to have sold between 70 to 100 million copies worldwide. Obviously, Miseducation was a worldwide album as well, but Michael Jackson, I think, brought that worldwide aspect of just listening music to a different level. Everybody was listening to his stuff, and he currently has the highest number of albums on the list with 5, and his album is literally the best-selling album ever. This was before streaming. This was before the whole, okay, let me go to Apple Music and type this in my phone and play it. This was before any of that. People had to physically go into, and I'm saying people, like this wasn't that long ago, but people had to go into the stores and get his albums. You had to get it different ways, and people found a way to listen to that album, selling out concerts, people fanning over him. Everybody else has different types of star power, but that Michael Jackson star power was to a completely different level that is beyond imaginable. And I don't even know when that's going to happen again. So I think rightfully so, Michael Jackson Thriller should be number one, okay? That's my thoughts. Second thing, Frank Ocean's album Blonde is at number 5. Do not get me wrong. I love Frank Ocean's music. I think he was one of those people to completely set the tone of being a Black gay male, releasing an album. It actually was a hit. That was something that people were still kind of easing into in recent generations, and his album did numbers. Always, wanting people to ask for more from the music that he has put out already. But number 5 out of all the albums that I've ever heard and have ever been released on the earth is kind of insane. And don't get me wrong, Blonde is a great album, but me personally, I'm taking Channel Orange, which had Think About You, before I'm taking Blonde. Like, yes, there's Pink and White, but Channel Orange had a lot better of a list. And that's why the fact that I can even debate between the two already shows you that I don't think it should be in the top 10. Third point I'm going to make is Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston do not have an album on the list at all. So Mariah Carey has the most Hot 100 number ones among soloists in the charts history. Obviously, anybody can name a Mariah Carey song. If you can't, probably live under a rock. I'm just going to keep it a buck with you. So for her to not have one album out of 100 albums on the list to me is pretty insane. Another one that I would argue, I wouldn't put it in the top 10, and I don't know exactly where I would put it on the list, but I do think that Ye's College Dropout album was very, very, very good. Definitely back, one of his older albums, but definitely storytelling. I think it moved a lot of people globally. I think anybody could listen to one of those songs and bump to it. And then my last point is Missy Elliott and Eminem not having a ranking on the chart at all. So that's kind of hard to debate. Oh, excuse me. Missy Elliott and Eminem have a ranking, but they are lower than SZA's album. So SZA came out with Snooze, which is a recent little pop, little bop that a lot of people like. And don't get me wrong, it is a great song, but I think having that realization that some of these newer artists are, going above some of these older artists that we hold dear to our heart is really hard to kind of grasp. Something that I learned about SZA's album, it's actually a couple of weeks away from being the longest running top 10 album by a Black artist in Billboard 200 history. The record is held by Michael Jackson Thriller, and if it remains there in a couple weeks, she will be beating Michael Jackson Thriller. Me personally, some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense, but it doesn't. I just think that these are two different time periods, two different worlds, two different ways of listening to music. It was a lot more different listening to music back then versus now. But also, shout out to SZA. This is not me hating on her because I think she makes great songs. But it's really hard for my brain to grasp beating Michael Jackson because, like I said, in my opinion, Michael Jackson is the best artist ever. But I definitely want you guys to go through that list and give me you guys' thoughts. Some of you guys did swipe up on my story and let me know you guys' thoughts. Some of y'all like the list. Some of y'all think that it's, well-deserved. And I think it's definitely well-deserved. This is not to take anything away from Lauryn Hill because she is a phenomenal artist as she is. It's just some of the things could be swapped a little bit. And I think that is fair to say. People are saying that Taylor Swift being on there is a joke, which I think that Taylor Swift is well-deserved in her rankings. I mean, people listen to her globally. Even if you don't listen to her songs every day, because I don't, I know who Taylor Swift is, and I could name a couple of her songs. She has a lot of go-to karaoke songs, and once she made it in the karaoke books, people are bumping your music everywhere. So that's what I would say with that. And then Beyonce's Lemonade took the number 10 slot. I also do think Beyonce did a great job with that album. I think that, music took like a little turn when she dropped the album. Top 10, though, is still pretty hard to say, but to each their own. Everybody has different opinions, but those are mine. But that's it for today's episode. Y'all can check out the stats so we can continue the discussion next week. And maybe your question or take will be featured. Thanks for hanging out with me and checking out the stats. I'll see y'all next week.